Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast, where we dive deep into dating with PMDD, PMDD relationships, stress, triggers, PMDD rage, and really understanding how attachment styles play a role in PMDD relationship. So I am Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I've personally suffered with PMDD for over 19 years, and I've dedicated my practice to help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. My dissertation, the phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with PMDD, gave me insight and tools on how PMDD affects the partner who has PMDD as well as the partner who does not. So each week, I'll be sharing my specialized trauma transformational tools to help you rewire your PMDD brain, get rid of the stress during the luteal phase, and finally have the relationship that you both desire and deserve. So whether it's understanding PMDD triggers, controlling PMDD rage, or healing past trauma from events that have happened in your relationship, this is your space to rebuild your relationship, empower you to connect with someone while having PMDD, and ultimately grow stronger together. So to get private PMDD relationship counseling sessions or for more PMDD tools, go to inlovewithpmdd.com. Now let's get into today's episode. We got this. Today, I want to talk to you about one of my golden rules that I have with all of my clients and the PMDD relationships. And that is you should definitely not be in a PMDD relationship or be dating if you do not have self-worth. So one of the things that really causes a lot of damage when you do not have self-worth in your relationship is you begin to accept a lot of the things that you do not deserve. And then you wonder why you're in this situation where you're suffering. And it is because you're feeling like what you're contributing to the relationship, the behavior that you've been accepting is less than what you deserve. And you really get really bitter and resentful. And I know because I've been in this situation so many times where I really accepted a lot of things that I did not deserve. And as I'm going on this journey myself, and it's been about 15 months since the breakup, and I've been on this journey of really thinking about everything that I went through in the previous relationship, I really started to ask myself, who let that version of me in where they would be accepting that kind of treatment? Because who I am today, I know for sure wouldn't have accepted a lot of the treatment that happened, and not just in my past relationships, but a lot of my relationships. And I began to ask myself, what was the common denominator in all of those relationships where I felt like I was accepting less than what I deserved? And that was my self-worth. My self-worth literally started to dwindle in a lot of those relationships. And that's why the behaviors that I was accepting, it was showing up where I wasn't happy, but I also wasn't letting myself out of those relationships. And so I want to really talk to you about this today, because as I was talking to my clients and I was really saying, if you're going to be in a PMDD relationship, if you're going to be dating with PMDD, you need to have self-worth, and you need to always be checking in with yourself with making sure that it's still intact, because a lot of times you don't really recognize and notice when that self-worth starts to go away. But as I'm I'm on the outside looking in, I'm looking back on my relationship and I'm like, wow, it took someone else to mention it to me. And I was really shocked because when they said, oh, you have an issue with your self-worth, I was like, me? No, because the ego came in and the ego was like, you don't have an issue with your self-worth. Like, you're fine. And it started to list out all of these accolades in my life. Like, you finished your doctorate degree and you have an amazing daughter and you have these careers and you're helping all these people. And what I want to let you know is it doesn't matter where you are in your life, what kind of accolades you have, what you have accomplished. When you have low self-worth, it literally impacts every other area of your life. You almost don't feel that good about yourself, about your accomplishments, if your self-worth is pretty much in the trash. And what I noticed is that when I was recognizing that I had low self-worth, it made sense of why I was holding on to things that weren't really serving me, that weren't really making me happy. And I wasn't holding on to things because I genuinely wanted them. There was a sense of fear of letting them go in the relationship. There was a sense of fear of letting these relationships go. And I saw this pattern within myself. And I said, what am I really holding on to? because I had to really dig deep on this self-worth journey. And it's different for everybody because I've worked with a lot of private clients in their self-worth journey. And I really have to dig deep and say, what is it that you're really holding on to where you're feeling like I need to accept this person, even though they're verbally abusing me, even though they're physically abusing me, even if they're not treating me well, even if I'm not getting my needs met. Why am I specifically holding on to this person? And for me, it took me right back to my childhood. So many things stem from your childhood. And I remember looking at this journey that a lot of people are on, and even a lot of my private clients have other counselors, therapists, psychologists that they're working with on reparenting themselves. And I remember thinking to myself, like, why would you need to reparent yourself? Like, it took me a minute to really think about that and to really dive deep of why you have to go back so many times, because I feel like I've healed my childhood trauma so many times within my lifestyle that when it gets to the point where when it comes up again, I notice for me, there's a lot of bitterness and resentment that I'm still on this journey. You can kind of, if you've been working on a certain area of your life, you can kind of get to a point where you're like, I should be over this, or this shouldn't still bother me, or this shouldn't still keep coming up. But every relationship literally exposes another version of what is inside of you. So the first thing I want to say is let go of the pride, let go of the ego that's telling you that you don't have a self-worth journey. I want to prime your mind for this, because if you're in the mindset that you don't have anything wrong with your self-worth, then you won't heal it. And that was the biggest thing for me, is that I was at a point where I was like, I could deny this. I had a choice. When I recognized that someone was like, I really think, because I was getting mentored and coached on dating, and I was in these dating situations, and they were like, yeah, you have an issue with your self-worth because you're accepting way less than what you deserve. And your standards are really, really low for what it is that you're providing in the relationships. And I'm just like taking it and taking it and taking it. So what I could have done in that situation is I could have denied it and be like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm completely fine. I have high self-worth. I'm a high value woman, all of these things. And I could have been in the ego and listed out all of these things, but there would have been no healing, there would have been no learning, there would have been no growing, there would have been no changes if I wasn't willing to accept the fact that, yeah, I do have a self-worth issue. You know how they say, like, when you go to AA, like, acceptance is like the first step. That was the first step for me. And it was really hard because I work on so many areas of my life as an individual, as all of the roles that I hold as a mom and as a counselor, and as like all of the other roles that I have in my life, a friend, even dating and a partner. And I just hold myself at a very high standard, and I work on myself every single day. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm very intentional about how I spend my time. I truly believe that time is one of your biggest forms of currency. Peace is my highest form of currency, meaning I value peace above a lot of other things. And so I'm like, if I'm working on myself in so many other areas, how is it that I have low self-worth? And it took me back to my childhood. And I was like, okay, I had to really list out a lot of the things that I was accepting, because what I was accepting in my past relationships, I was to accept in dating. And it is a dangerous place to be, to have low self-worth. You will find yourself in situations and you will ask yourself, how did I get here? That's what I was asking myself in a lot of these dating situations, because when you go no contact, or you disconnect for the person, or the infatuation wears off, or the attraction wears off, then you get to see the person for who they really are. Then you get to see the situation for what it really is. And then you're shocked. Like, how many times have you been like that in your relationship, where you look back at things that you've accepted in the past and be like, I can't believe I accepted this kind of behavior. Like, no one would believe that I accepted this kind of behavior. That was the case for me. When I told my friends a lot of the behavior that I was accepting in these relationships, they couldn't believe it. They were like, you put up with that? Like, I would have thought you would have left way earlier. I would have thought that you would have left so much earlier, even with dating someone. And I'm like, no, for some reason, when I was dating, I was noticing that they were giving me breadcrumbs, or they were gaslighting me, or they were doing all these things, but there was something in me that was accepting it. And it was kind of like, oh, let me try this again, or let me just work on this. Or I was always internalizing it and choosing to work on myself instead of recognizing that this person doesn't deserve me. And that was so hard for me because when I was working with the individual that I ended up working with for my lack of self-worth, they said, why is it so hard for you to tell someone that they cannot have access to you if they genuinely don't deserve you? Why is it so hard for you to let them know that they're not going to have you in their life, not because they're a bad person, but because they just don't deserve what you're bringing to the table? No one has to earn anything that you're giving them. You're just freely giving all of yourself to these individuals that do not deserve you. And then when they show you that they do not deserve you by treating you horribly, you have an issue with walking away. And I was like, I really do, because I really start to make excuses for them and say, oh, well, maybe it's because of this. I will even reference their childhood. Oh, they had a bad relationship, or they had a bad childhood. And I'll start mentioning all of these things. And I was putting myself on the back burner. Like, I've gone through childhood trauma, and that's what it really led me to. So for those of you who don't know my story, I was in foster care at the age of 3. I was adopted at the age of 5. A lot of what happened with my biological parents was a lot of drug, alcohol abuse, prisons, all of these things. I was totally abandoned. But when I got adopted into my family, my adopted family, I had an open adoption. And what that meant was I still was able to communicate with my biological family. And so for years of my childhood, they would promise me, oh, we're going to pick you up. Oh, we're going to do this, or, oh, we're going to spend this time together. I'm going to give you this. They would promise me the world and deliver nothing. They would almost breadcrumb me. They would give me a little bit of something, like, say if they said that they were going to pick me up, we're going to go and have this really fun time. They wouldn't pick me up, but then they would call me days later and act like nothing happened. The gaslighting, right? And I was a child. So what I really learned in my formative years, where you're supposed to be learning about relationships, learning about love, getting those secure attachments, is that people can say things and they not really deliver them. Like, they don't deliver on the things that they promise. And my role that I took on was, let me just love them a little more. Let me make excuses for them. Because in my mind, if I didn't make excuses for them, if I completely just held them accountable for what they did or they didn't do, I would end up with no one. That was my worst fear as a child, is that I really look at my parents for who they are, and I will never have a relationship with them because I will recognize that they don't deserve me. I will recognize that they don't really love me. It was a scary thing to think that your biological parent and family doesn't love you. Because if your biological parents don't love you, if the people that brought you into this world don't love you, then how is anyone else in the world supposed to love you? That was my mind. So I made it my job to make it easy for them to love me. So I started putting myself in situations where I was excusing bad behavior. I was overlooking it. I was not bringing it up to them. I was not holding them accountable because I didn't want them to feel bad about things that they were doing to me. I was more concerned with their emotions and less concerned with mine. I was stuffing down how I really felt so that I could still have a relationship with my biological family, because things were not well in my adopted home. And I was also getting abused. And it was a situation where I was looking at my biological family as an escape. And I was literally saying to myself, everything is horrible here at my adopted home, but when I connect with my biological family, it's going to be so much better. So I sold myself a dream. And I developed this habit of doing this in relationships, in intimate relationships. I would sell myself a dream. When I started to get mistreated, I would say, that's okay because it's going to get better. I just need to love them more. I just need to make more excuses for them. I just need to forgive them. And so I could forgive people very, very well. Forgiving is almost a trauma response for me, because you know how they say forgive and forget? I literally forget what the person does, not because I don't really remember it, but because I force myself to forget. Because if I remember every single thing that they do, then I know that they can't be in my life. When I get to a point where I am forgiving you, but I'm remembering every single thing that you do, something within me doesn't allow you to stay in my life. And I know that about me, because when it's gotten to the point where I've disconnected from certain relationships that were not good for me. That's literally what happened. I got to a point where I was no longer able to forget every single thing that they had done to me. And therefore I accepted this person can't be in my life, because if I look at the behavior that someone does, if someone's yelling and cursing at me, then I have to face the fact that this is a character thing. They're going to yell and curse at me and I can't have them in my life. And so I have to let them go. And I try so hard in relationships not to get to that point where I have to let that person go. So in order to not let them go, I just forget. I forgive and forget. I forgive and forget. I forgive and forget. And what happens when you do that so often, you're ignoring your reality. You're disassociating from who this person really is, who they're showing you they really are, who they're showing you that they're capable of being in your life. And then it gets really dangerous because they begin to believe, because this is what you've shown them, that, wow, I can talk to her like this and wake up the next day and she's just going to be open and loving. I can treat her like this and she's still going to smile when we go out and act like everything's great. And I was doing that. I was doing it for the sake of, number one, keeping the peace in my relationship, because I didn't want to have my PMDD symptoms worse, but then also so that I could hold on to the relationship. And so when I'm dating, it's easier for me to let people go. It's easier for me to cut people off that are not good for me. But when I'm in marriages, and I've been in 2 marriages in my life, one in my 20s, one in my 30s, it's so hard for me to let go of a marriage because I value family. And I don't value family because I grew up having a good family. I just told you I had a lot of childhood trauma. I had an abusive biological parents and also adopted parents. I value family, not because I have a good family, but because it's just a character, a trait of mine. I value family. I think it's one of the most beautiful things. I think that's one of the most special bonds. And I've gotten to this point in my life where I have a chosen family. I have family, meaning I have friends that are like my family. I have people that I'm choosing to be in my life, and they've become my family, and I value them. So let's talk about this today, of why I really believe that having a lack of self-worth is so damaging in your PMDD relationship. And the basis of this, when it got back to my childhood, I was digging on this journey. I said to myself, the reason why it's so hard for me to let go of a marriage relationship that's really not healthy for me is because I genuinely believe if I let this person go, I'm going to have no one there. There's a lot of this scarcity mindset, and that can happen with you, because I know it's happened with a lot of my private clients. They almost feel like, if I'm not with this person, then I'm not going to be with anyone. This is my one and only person. This is the only relationship that I will ever have. I will never be happy again. So I need to take all of this mistreatment, because if I don't take this, then I'm going to be alone, and I don't want to be alone. So I continuously take abuse. And for me, if someone is operating in a realm that you don't like in your PMDD relationship, I'm not saying throw the relationship away. If I'm your counselor, if you're my private client, that's not what I do. What I do is address the behaviors that are triggering you. Address the behaviors that we are recognizing that is less than what you deserve. And then once we do that, we bring it to your partner's attention, or bring it to your attention, and we work on fixing it. But what I've noticed is, when you get to this point where you've been accepting so much bad behavior less than what you deserve from someone, they kind of get used to treating you like this. And so when you try to talk to them about it, and you try to say, I need you to start talking to me more nicely, I need you to say less hurtful words, they may try to get defensive and criticize you and be like, well, what about you? You're doing this, and you're doing this. They're not willing to take accountability for their actions, and they actually may have no intention of changing, because guess what? They don't value you anymore. So this is why self-worth and self-value are so interconnected, because when someone doesn't value you, you will know it very, very, very soon, because they will not fear losing you. When someone is willing to put you in a situation where they can risk losing you, and by risk losing you, I mean, they recognize that you've been complaining about things that are going on in the relationship. They know that you're not happy with the way things are in the relationship and they're not willing to do anything to change it, it's because they don't value you. And I know this because I've dealt with this firsthand. I've seen partners who value me where I bring something up and I'm like, hey, this really concerns me or this really bothers me. And because they had a fear of losing me, they immediately made the change. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, babe. I won't talk to you like that. Or I'm really, really sorry for whatever it is that I did. There's no defensiveness. They're literally admitting to it and they're willing to make changes and they're willing to get help on the areas that are causing damage in the relationship because they value me. They value my presence in the relationship. They value the relationship as a whole. And when it gets to the point where they don't value you, what this looks like is the criticism, is the defensiveness, is the deflecting. There's a lot of deflection, meaning I'm telling you that I have an issue in this relationship. And instead of addressing it and taking accountability, you're deflecting it and you're saying it's because of PMDD and you're saying it's because of me and you're saying it's because of my childhood trauma and you're saying it's because of all of these other things that are going on in the relationship without taking personal accountability. You're not willing to take accountability because you don't value losing me. So if you're in that situation with your partner and you're wondering why they're not changing and you're wondering why they're just going month after month after month after month of the same issues and you all are talking about the same issues. And maybe some of you, because I talked to you, you've been DMing me for months, almost a year now saying, Dr. Rose, I really want to work with you, but my partner's not on board. I really know that the issues that we have in our relationship are because of PMDD, but my partner is not willing to get the help. Every single month, it is the same thing. And I always say, I'm here for you. I am here for you whenever you all are ready. If one of you are ready, I work with a lot of private clients where I'm only working with one of the partners, either the partner that has PMDD or the partner that doesn't. But I can't force your partner to value you enough to get the help in that area. Meaning we can work on you and what you're contributing to the PMDD relationship, your reactions to a lot of the things that are going on in the PMDD relationships, which I know is a lot of the things that you want to work on. You say, I need to work on just not reacting to the things that my partner is doing. And maybe that'll be better. That used to be me. I'm like, my partner's not going to change. So I'm just going to change how I'm reacting to the things that my partner is doing. And maybe that'll help. That only sustained me for another couple of months because at the end of the day, when you are in a situation where you're not valuing yourself, where there's no self-worth, there's low self-worth, there's low self-value, you're going to begin to get disgusted with yourself because you're accepting less than what you deserve. That's what happened to me. I was literally disgusted with myself. And I woke up one day after a certain instance happened and my partner at the time was so happy and I was so disgusted with myself at how low I had gone, how much I had put myself on the back burner, how much I was suffering in silence. And my partner was happy and I was literally mortified because I said to myself, this is not sustainable. I'm literally pleasing my partner at the detriment of my own self-worth. And I didn't say the word self-worth. So, if I'm keep talking to you about self-worth, no, I don't believe people really talk to themselves like that, where they're like, I have low self-worth. But what I really would say is, do you feel good about yourself? The way that you're showing up in your relationship, the way that you're being treated, do you feel good about yourself? That's what I was really saying to myself. I don't feel good about myself. I'm looking at how I'm showing up. I'm looking at everything I'm pouring into my partner. And I don't feel good about myself. I feel like if someone else was being treated like this, if a really good friend or my daughter was getting treated like this, I would tell them to run for the hills. If a client was getting treated like this, I don't tell my clients to leave. So that is one of my boundaries is I don't tell you to leave. If you decide to leave your relationship, you decide that on your own. I lay everything out for you to make the decision on your own because no one could tell me when to leave. I had to leave any of my relationships where I was accepting less than what I deserved when I was ready. And when I was ready is when I was willing to face reality. When I got really tired of pretending that I was happy. And when I got to the point where I was recognizing that I had put myself in a situation where I almost had to pretend. I had to pretend that I was happy in a situation because I had put myself in it and I felt like I needed to see it through. I felt like the reason why I wasn't leaving was not because I genuinely wanted to be there. It was because I felt like, you know what? I put myself in this situation. So I just need to stick with it because after all, it's marriage. And that was my biggest thing is I knew that I was no longer happy. And I don't believe that you get to these points where you're always happy in your relationship. Do I believe that you should be miserable? No, but I believe that there's moments in your relationship where you just go through a rough patch. And I'm more than willing to stick it out and go through a rough patch. What I'm not willing to do is have someone blatantly disrespect me, devalue me, and not even feel bad about it. I think that's the worst part when there starts to be a lack of remorse where they stop feeling bad for treating you horribly. That's a dangerous place to be because that means that they're willing to go beyond that. When they get really comfortable making you uncomfortable, when they see you crying and they're not affected, when there's no empathy, which is one of the biggest things that I teach in my course about being a supportive PMDD partner is having empathy. It's a dangerous place to be where your partner doesn't really care whether you're sad or not. They don't care that you're crying. They don't care that you're frustrated. They don't care that your PMDD symptoms are worse. They don't care that you're suffering. They almost think about that's your problem. That's not my problem. That's a dangerous place to be. They will take you through the ringer. They will put you through hell with a smile on their face. When they recognize that you're willing to put up with a lot of things, they start to lose value in you. They don't value someone that doesn't value themselves. That's what I recognized. I had gotten to a point where I was asking myself, why am I requiring my partner to value me when I don't even value myself at this point? I'm expecting my partner to treat me better and I'm not treating me better. So this is why when I'm getting into this realm of dating, I really believe that it's dangerous to date with low self-worth and no value because you will accept horrible situations. I can't even, I'm just like going back in my memory, like you will accept when people recognize that you don't love yourself, that you don't value yourself, they don't value you and they definitely don't love you. They take advantage of you for what it is that you can provide to them. And they don't feel bad about it because they see how you treat yourself. When someone sees how you treat yourself, that's showing them how they're supposed to treat you. A lot of times when you're demanding that someone treat you better and they're not treating you better, it's because they see how you're treating yourself. And they're like, oh, why would I treat you with respect? You don't even respect yourself. Why would I, if you're saying to your partner, that you want more intimacy, you want to be more connected, you want to be more loving, you want to be more open, all of these things. And you don't have a good relationship with your own body, with how you feel in your body. You're not taking care of your body, but you're expecting your partner to. That's what I recognize with a lot of my private clients that were coming to me and they were saying that they were having intimacy issues. And I would say, okay, let's talk through this. Let's work through this. And a lot of times they were very uncomfortable with their body. And a lot of how that was showing up in the relationship was they didn't want to get naked around their partner, or they were like not comfortable in their clothes. They were really insecure with that certain area. And it was showing up in the bedroom because they were not willing to be open with their body, with their partner, but they were expecting to have the intimacy that comes with that. A lot of times when I do my PMDD partners morning routine, I like to explain it to people because it has a lot to do with being in a relationship. It has a lot to do with the most important relationship that you can ever have. And that's the relationship with yourself. Meaning if I'm going to be in a relationship with someone and I am going to be intimate, it is very important for me to have a good relationship with my own body, for me to feel comfortable in my own skin, in order for me to feel open and loving and wanting to share my body with someone that I value, that I like, that I love. I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing my body with someone if I'm not comfortable with my body myself, because then it's like I'm hiding certain parts of myself or I'm not really comfortable. And I'm also looking for their validation. If I'm insecure with how I look and how I feel in my clothes, then I'm always going to be looking for my partner to compliment me. to tell me I look good, to tell me I look good in my clothes, to tell me my body looks good. I'm going to be expecting my partner to please me a certain way when we're intimate to just prove that I'm attractive, that I'm desirable. And it is not fair to put that on your partner. And they can feel that. They can feel that pressure because when you get to this place of desiring and expecting your partner to appreciate your body, value your body more than you do, then if they stop doing it, then all of a sudden you don't feel attractive. You don't feel desirable, or you will literally get pissed off at your partner for not coming on to you, for not flirting with you because you're not secure with yourself and you're putting that worth of your body in your partner. So you only feel attractive when your partner tells you that you're attractive. You only feel desirable when your partner tells you that you're desirable. And when they stop doing that, not because they don't genuinely believe it, but because they're just existing. You're going to be, it's like you're siphoning gas. You're like, I need you to tell me that I'm attractive. I need you to tell me that I'm pretty. I need you to tell me that I'm beautiful. I need you to do all this. And it's because you're not doing it for yourself. You have low self-worth in regards to your body, and you're wanting your partner to fill that part of your cup up. And I'm not saying that your partner is not supposed to think that you're desirable. They're not supposed to think that you're attractive. Of course they are, but you can't put the pressure on them for being the only person that is showing you that you're that. You need to be at a point in your journey where whether your partner tells you every single day that you're beautiful, you feel beautiful. Because when you put the pressure on them, they're going to feel it and it's going to become like an obligatory thing. It's going to be like, oh, I need to make sure I tell her that she's beautiful or else it's going to be a problem. She's going to have an attitude with me. Why would you want your partner doing something like that for you that is not genuine? It is not your partner's responsibility to validate you and to build up your self-worth. And so if you're in this place where you're really needing to work on your self-worth, number one, if you're dating, I had to take a break with dating when I realized that that was one of my biggest issues because it was showing up in a realm of I was valuing, my self-worth was tied to whether someone wanted to date me or not. And not just date me, but date me long-term. Date me like, you know, I'm big on marriage. And so if someone was saying that they wanted to be, or they were dating me, I would find value in someone telling me that they wanted to be in a long-term relationship with me, that they had met me and they were like, oh, you have all of these amazing qualities. I want to be with you in a long-term relationship. I'm not even saying marriage. I'm not there yet. I'm definitely not there yet. Remember, I told you that I wanted just a companion at this point in my life, but I was finding a lot of value in people that told me that they wanted to be in this long-term relationship with me because I took it as though, wow, they think I'm so amazing that they want to be in a long-term relationship with me. They're seeing all these qualities that I have, what I'm bringing to this relationship, how I make them feel, and they want to be with me for a long time. That was my childhood trauma coming in. Because what I was basically saying is, wow, these people are choosing me. They want to be with me. They want to be in my life. They want to choose me above all of these other people. And what I really was coming back to with my childhood trauma was the fact that my parents are my biological family is very selfish in a sense that they do a lot of things in the world. They do a lot of things that meet their needs and they put me on the back burner and they've done it for years. And I've always wanted them to choose being a parent over meeting their selfish desires. I know what it feels like to have a daughter. I have a daughter who's 15, and I know that I have a lot of things that I desire, but none of the things that I desire in my life are above being a mother. I would never choose to do one of my passions even above being a mom. If I had to pick and choose and it's like, hey, you can do this or you can be a mom, I'm going to be a mom. I have to sacrifice a lot to be a mom. And that's a maternal instinct that I have because I value my child. I value my daughter enough to put her above a lot of my desires. And I always wondered why my parents didn't have that in them. And I was internalizing it and saying, I'm not good enough. Because if I was a good enough child, they would value me above their selfish desires. I made it about me. And instead of getting to the point of recognizing that the things that I desire in my biological parents, they don't have. The things that I desire and deserve, they don't have them. Even if they really, really wanted them, those qualities, they don't have those maternal, paternal instincts at this point in their life. And I can't sit there and put my life on hold waiting for them to get to a certain point to where they value me. And a lot of you are in that situation in your relationship where you're waiting for your partner to value you. You're waiting for them to recognize how amazing you are. You're waiting for them to decide that I want this relationship with this person so much that I'm willing to make these changes. And can I tell you that you can't force anyone to get to that point ever? They have to want it on their own. I've been in relationships where people have recognized how much they value the relationship and they value me and they've made the changes. And I've been in relationships where they've not. And they've literally shown me I have no intentions of changing. This is who I am. You either take the breadcrumbs that I give you or you just don't have me. And a lot of times you can literally accept the breadcrumbs and have to pretend like it's cake. That is the most horrible thing to do, especially if it was just Valentine's Day and you have these holidays like Valentine's Day, Christmas with the matching pajamas, and you have all of these things where you can portray yourself on social media like you have the best partner ever, and you're literally not even speaking to one another. You're not intimate. You're sleeping in separate rooms. And what happens is when you're in these relationships where you have this low self-worth and you're accepting the bare minimum, you're accepting these breadcrumbs, is that the hard part is you have to pretend like you're getting the whole cake. You have to pretend like you're getting the kind of person that you desire and deserve when you're really getting breadcrumbs. And so you're not only lying to everyone else, but you're lying to yourself. And I know because I've been there. I've looked back at pictures with exes where I'm smiling in the pictures and everything looks great. And I know me, and I could see myself. I could see the pain in my eyes. I could see the forced smile. I could see and go back to that moment and feel and be like, you were not happy. Like, be real with yourself. You were not happy. You were suffering in silence and you were feeling like you were doing the right thing, but you were not happy. You know, on this journey, I've had so many private clients who are on my TikTok or my Instagram, and they literally DM'd me and was like, you look so happy. Like, I've been following you for a couple years or over a year, and I've never seen you so happy. And I've appreciated that kind of like confirmation because I'm genuinely happy. It's not a forced sense of I feel like I should be happy, so I'm going to pretend like I'm happy. It's kind of like fake it until you make it. I no longer am in that place. And I think subconsciously, I felt like I was doing the right thing by putting myself in those situations. So I know a lot of you may feel like you are doing the right thing by putting yourself in the situations where you're pretending like you're happy when you're really not. Because it's like, what's the alternative? Be miserable, act like you're miserable, let everyone know that you're miserable, feel even more miserable because now everybody knows that you're miserable. No, you're just going to pretend like you're happy when you're not. Here's my thing. I am all for that if you're actively working on it. Like if I'm actively working on something with a partner, I will be the first one. I have a lot of friends that were like, before you got the divorce, I had no idea that you and your partner weren't happy. Up until when you told me that you were getting the divorce, I thought you all were happy. I am all for protecting your partner. And what I mean by that, if you're actively working on your relationship, you don't have to go around telling your business and telling everyone that you're miserable and, oh, I don't like this about them and talking crap about your partner. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if you know that you're not working on it and you know that you're just accepting behavior that is less than what you deserve, like you're not really happy, but you're pretending like you're happy, it's going to be really hard for you. You're going to begin to get disgusted with yourself like I was. And so I'm going to talk to you about the tools of what you can do to work on your self-worth. If any of this is resonating with you, again, there is absolutely no shade because I've been there and not that long ago. And I know a lot of you, maybe you look at me on social media or you listen to me on the podcast and be like, I would have never thought that you would have had low self-worth. And it's like, low self-worth does not mean that you're not deserving of love and that you don't love yourself. It means that you don't love yourself enough to walk away from situations that are less than what you deserve or demand. That was so hard for me. I've had to demand in dating. You either treat me the way that I desire and deserve, or I'm out. I'm not going to convince you. I'm not going to force you. I'm not going to do circus tricks to prove to you why you should treat me the way that I desire and deserve. Either you see my value and you're willing to treat me the way I desire and deserve, or you don't. Because if you have to convince someone to treat you the way you desire and deserve, they're only going to do it for a short period of time to keep you around, and then eventually it's going to wear off. It's not sustainable because you're always going to have to do circus tricks. You're always going to have to nag them. You're always going to have to beg them. You're always going to have to bring it to their attention of why they should treat you the way you desire and deserve. And you're going to get tired. It's going to be exhausting. And as soon as you stop doing it, they're going to go back to their regularly scheduled program, which is treating you less than how you desire and deserve. Point blank, period. You know, a lot of people that I have looked back on that I've dated and I've been in relationships that have treated me the way that I really desire and deserve, I've not had to teach them. They've seen the value in me and they've just been that way. They've been treated me with respect. They haven't raised their voice with me. They've gotten to the point where I've triggered them, or obviously, like, it's not like they're living in la la land, but they handled it in a way that was so respectful. Like, I had one of my exes literally tell me, I love you too much, or I love and care about you too much to stay in this conversation, because I know what I'm feeling right now and I could potentially disrespect you. So I'm going to walk away. Not I'm triggered. I'm pissed off. I'm going to talk to you however I want to, and you're just going to have to take it because I'm pissed off in the moment. I'm not saying that your partner is never allowed to have an emotional reaction towards you, but they need to have some kind of filter. Meaning, if it becomes escalated in a way that they're about to disrespect you, they're willing to walk away. They're willing to pull away until they can regulate themselves and talk to you in a way that you desire and deserve. I always use this thing with my private clients and say, think about someone that you really respect. And a lot of times it's your children. You care. And what I mean by respect is you care how they look at you, how they see you, how they view you. And ask yourself this question when you're thinking about talking to your partner about something that you're really frustrated with or you're triggered about. Would you talk that way to your partner while your daughter or your son is sitting in the room? Meaning, whatever you're about to say to them, think of your child sitting in the room. Would you yell at them? If you're trying to justify the way if someone's trying to justify the way that they treated you and belittle it and minimize it and like, it's not that bad. Okay. It's not that bad. If you don't have kids, put your parents in the room. Put somebody that you respect. Put your boss in the room. Put your best friends in the room and ask your partner this question. If these people that you respect were in the room and you were talking to me like this, would you still do it? Or would you regulate yourself and or walk away? Would you treat me the way you treat me in private, in public, in front of everybody? Would you give me the silent treatment? Would you ignore me? Would you give me the cold shoulder? Would you argue with me in a way that is demeaning? Would you do this in front of all of these people that we're parading ourselves around, that they're this big, happy couple? And if the answer is no, then you know that you need to fix the way that you're treating me. This is a simple way to understand if your partner is treating you less than what you desire and deserve. So when you're looking at this barrier of self-worth, it means the way that your partner treats you in private should not be drastically different to how they treat you in public. If they're treating you in public with respect because they care about you, how it's viewed to everybody else, if they treat you with respect and they lower their voice, they talk to you in a calm tone when they're frustrated in front of, the kids, but then in private, they're yelling and cursing at you, or they're throwing things, or they're saying all these things. No, that's how you know you're getting treated less than what you desire and deserve, because what they're showing you is, I have the capability to treat you the way that you desire and deserve and show you that I value you in front of other people. I just don't value you specifically enough to control myself. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because I had to think about that. I'm like, when I was in this journey of early in my journey of getting rid of my PMDD rage, which took me a while, I recognized I can control my PMDD rage because I've done it in so many other circumstances. When we've been out with family and friends and my partner used to trigger me, I didn't go off on them. I didn't say mean things. I didn't give them the culture. I didn't do that. I still act loving. So that showed me I was valuing the people that were around us more than I was valuing my own partner. I didn't respect and value my partner enough to give them the same level of treatment that I was giving in front of everybody else. So that's how you know your value for your partner can be going down, is that you're starting to just be very loose with how you treat them. It is what it is. They get me however they get me. I'm in PMDD. You start bringing up all these things. So let's go over 10 signs that your self-worth may be suffering in your PMDD relationship, because I want you to be real with yourself. I want you to be honest with yourself. If you and let the ego go. Remember how I talked to you earlier in the episode? I had to let my ego go. I had to let go of the notion that, oh, this is not me. Like, and even if the self-worth word or the phrase is just triggering for you, where you're like, I don't feel like I have self-worth, use another phrase. Like I said, do you feel good about yourself? Okay. So the first sign that your self-worth is suffering in your PMDD relationship is you rely on your partner to define your worth. You feel only lovable when your partner reassures you. You feel really, really bad about yourself unless your partner is telling you that you're great, unless your partner is telling you that they appreciate you. And so what this really looks like, because I want to give you an example. I was really thinking of one. And you question your value when your partner goes into PMDD. And so your partner's overwhelmed with PMDD and not showing affection. And instead of you recognizing that them not showing affection has everything to do with them and nothing to do with you, you start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Am I not enough? Are they not showing me affection because they're not attracted to me? Are they not showing me affection because they don't like me? I've heard this so many times where when your partner gets distant in their luteal phase, that you start to think that there's something wrong with you as the partner, that they don't really like you. They don't value you. They don't want to be in a relationship with you, instead of recognizing that they're just stressed and overwhelmed because they're suffering with PMDD symptoms. So this is how you know that your self-worth is suffering in the PMDD relationship as the partner, because you're in that situation where every single time your partner acts differently towards you, you think it's a reflection of you and who you are and what you bring to the table and your value. And the next sign that your self-worth is suffering in your PMDD relationship is that you're over apologizing even when you're not at fault. You take all the blame for every conflict that you have in the relationship to avoid upsetting your partner. Every single time something bad happens in the relationship, you're like, oh, that was on me. That was my fault. And I'm all about forgiving and asking for forgiveness. But if you're not wrong, you're not wrong. And a lot of times you're apologizing because you know that your partner won't. You want to get the peace back in your relationship. So you're over apologizing, even when it's not your fault. And you feel guilty for even having needs or expressing your own emotions because you're making it all about them. You're saying, like, I know they lashed out because of PMDD, but maybe it's because I should just apologize to them. So what you're really saying is your partner went off on you on PMDD rage, and instead of holding them accountable for how they treated you, you're saying, oh, it's because of me. I must have triggered them. I must have done something wrong. I should just go and apologize to them. You're literally apologizing to your partner for them doing something disrespectful to you. Your self-worth is going down as you're over apologizing. Every single time that you do this, you're putting your needs on the back burner and saying, my partner is more important than me. I'm willing to take this level of abuse and blame it on PMDD and say, oh, I know that they couldn't control themselves. I know that they just had to talk to me like that because they're suffering in PMDD. I told you that's not true. If your partner can't control their emotions in PMDD, they need to be doing something to manage it. And by manage it, they need to be getting help. This is why I work with my private clients, because it is hard, but it is something that you're going to have to work on, but it is possible. I'm never going to tell you that because you're in a PMDD relationship that you need to be accepting verbal and physical abuse and there's nothing that you can do about it. Are there going to be times where your partner who has PMDD gets very overwhelmed? Absolutely. I still get very overwhelmed. I still get triggered. I still have to use my own tools. But I will not put myself in a situation where I'm going to verbally and physically abuse someone because I'm in PMDD and act like there's nothing that I can do about it. And I understand if you're coming and you're meeting me earlier on your journey, I get how you could think that. I used to think that early in my journey. I've suffered with PMDD for over 19 years. Early in my journey, before I developed tools, before I had tools, I literally thought I can't control it. And so the next time that your self-worth is suffering is you walk on eggshells to avoid conflict. Partners, you suppress your true feelings out of fear that they'll get upset. When I wrote my dissertation for my doctorate in PMDD, I only interviewed initially partners, hundreds and hundreds of partners from all over the world, because I wanted to make sure culture wasn't a thing, age wasn't a thing, all different ages, all different backgrounds, all different races. They all said the same things, that they were walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting their PMDD partner. They didn't like the version of their partner when they got into PMDD, how angry they got, how mad they got, how bitter they got, the nasty things that came out of their mouth. It was so out of character. It scared them. There was so much fear. And a lot of the phrases they were saying is, I won't bring up how I feel because they're already dealing with PMDD. I should just deal with my emotions myself. They didn't set any boundaries with how they were getting treated because they didn't want to seem like they were too much, like they weren't able to handle you in PMDD. So it almost felt like unless they were willing to put up with this, they were not going to be able to be with you. And they love you and they adore you. So it's almost like, if I want to be with this person, I have to accept this abuse. And that's how you know your self-worth is suffering. The next sign is you tolerate disrespect or hurtful behavior. You excuse mistreatment because of PMDD, even when it's repetitive. Every single month, your partner is talking to you nasty. Every single month they go into PMDD, they're shutting down on you. They're getting distant. They're not meeting your needs. They're acting bitter. They're acting resentful, and you don't speak up. Even when your partner's words hurt you and you're saying things like, they yelled at me again, but it's just the PMDD talking. I just shouldn't take it personally. How many of you who have premenstrual dysphoric disorder has told your partner, you need to stop taking it personally? Again, I've interviewed a lot of the PMDD sufferers, and that is one of the commonalities. And I've even heard my private clients say it on sessions. And I'm like, no, that's not a thing. I'm not going to help your partner accept verbal abuse better so that your relationship can be better. I'm going to help you manage your PMDD rage, your PMDD triggers, so that you don't treat your partner like this anymore. I'm not going to condition your partner to accept abuse in the luteal phase. That's not what I'm here for. And so many times that is the misconception when it comes to working with me. They're like, Dr. Rose, you know how it is. So they just need to not take it personally. Do not think that I'm going to be on your side with abusing your PMDD partner. You shouldn't even want me to be. You shouldn't want someone that's on your side at the cost of your partner who you love and adore and care about. Like, really think about that. If I love and care about my partner and I went to a counselor and that counselor showed me how to abuse them better, how to talk to them like crap and they just not take it personally, how to not allow me to grow, how to not give me tools to grow, but just get them to a place where they're desensitized to my abuse. If they're not holding me accountable for how I'm treating my partner, I do not want to work with them. Because that's the ego. If you want to work with people that are only telling you the things that you want to hear, that's your ego. Because your ego wants to tell you that you're not wrong. You're the victim. You're suffering in PMDD and everybody else should just be catering to you and your needs because you have premenstrual dysphoric disorder. And you will never grow and you will never get better and your partner will leave you. They will leave you because it's not sustainable. At some point, they're going to break. They're going to break down. They've probably already been breaking down, and breakdowns lead to breakups. And they're going to have a breaking point where they're not going to come back. And I know this, and I'm saying this with love because I don't want it to get to this point where I've counseled so many people where they come to me and they were like, oh my gosh, my partner left me. They literally left me. I never thought that they would leave. Number one, you didn't think that they would leave because they had low self-worth. And you never thought that they would leave you. And when they finally left you, when people have been dealing with so much and because they have low self-worth and they wake up to the kind of treatment that they've been accepting, when they leave, they don't go back. I know it because I'm one of them. And it's almost like you can't go back because once you really rip the blanket off and recognize the kind of treatment that you've been accepting, and you see the person for who they are and what, not even who they are, what they're capable of, it doesn't feel safe anymore. And that's what allows you to not go back. For me, anytime I've not gone back to someone that's treated me less than what I desire and deserve, it's because it scared me about how far that they were willing to go in that behavior. It didn't feel safe to me. I was like, they were willing to do this. They were willing to treat me like this and tell me that they loved me. This is what love means to them. I don't feel safe. I can't go back. Even if I still love them and care about them, I can't go back because I've recognized, my gosh, this is how far that they're willing to go. And so I want you to wake up to this before it gets to that point where your partner leaves and you lose family. It's horrible for the children. It's horrible for the pets. It's horrible for your finances. You need to really think about how much is impacted. I know when we talk about these PMDD monthly breakups, a lot of times the breakups seem like the best solution, but you're not really thinking about everything else that's going to be impacted. There was so much that happened in both of my divorces. So much. I moved. I had a big house. I had a big giant house. When I moved, I live in a condo now. I love the condo that I lived in, but I gave up so much. I gave up so much when I gave up my marriage. When I gave up that relationship, I gave up so much, and it was worth it for me because I needed to love myself again, value myself again, get my peace back, rebuild myself. And I took personal responsibility for that. But I gave up so much. It wasn't just about the breakup. And I had to be willing to face that I was willing to walk away from a lot of things that were valuable to me in order to value myself. And I wanted to find another way. I wanted to find a way to be able to value myself more, get treated better without having to walk away from the relationship. And I tried for a long time to do that. So it wasn't like I just made a decision one day. But again, when your partner or you wake up one day to that and like, I've been getting treated like this, I need to walk away, you don't go back. And the next thing is that happens when your self-worth is going down and suffering in your PMDD relationship is you feel responsible for fixing your partner. You believe it's your job to regulate their emotions or make them feel better. That is the biggest burden that you can ever have, is to feel like whenever your partner is suffering in PMDD, or not even if your partner that has PMDD, whenever your partner is sad, when they're depressed, when they're anxious, that it's your job to regulate them. And you neglect your own well-being because you're so focused on helping them. And you think to yourself, if I just do more for them, then maybe they won't struggle in PMDD. If I just do more than them, then maybe they won't struggle with their PTSD. Maybe they won't struggle with their seasonal depression. Maybe they won't struggle with their anxiety. You're putting them recovering and feeling better on your shoulders. And so the next time that your value is suffering in your PMDD relationship is you fear that they'll leave you. Every single PMDD cycle, every single cycle, you're saying, my gosh, they're distant during PMDD. What if they don't love me anymore? What if they leave me? You're clinging to the reassurance about that they still care about you, that they still like you, that they still love you. The next one is you believe that your needs don't matter. You put their needs above your own. You're thinking they have PMDD, so my stress isn't as important. I'll just handle it alone. You don't think that you're valuable enough to have needs within the relationship as well. The next one is you change who you are to please them. You suppress your personality, your opinions, your desires, or emotions to keep the peace. I've done this so often where I'm an extroverted person, and I became an introvert. I became a whole introvert so that my partner wouldn't be jealous, so that my partner wouldn't be insecure, so that my partner would feel good about themselves. You're suppressing your personality because you'll fear that they reject you if you're fully yourself. You say, I won't tell them I need space because they might think that I don't care about them, when you know that you really need space. The next sign is you feel like you're not enough. No matter what you do, you feel like you're failing as a partner. And I know for the PMDD partners, this is really, really big. So you're constantly comparing yourself to who you think they need you to be. You're like, I'm not patient enough. I'm not strong enough. I should be doing more. Maybe I'm too clingy. Maybe I'm too needy. Your self-worth is going down and suffering because you're feeling like you're not enough in the PMDD relationship. And then the last one is you stay even when you're unhappy. You fear leaving because you don't believe that you'll find somebody else that has the qualities that your partner has. There's something about them where you really believe that you can't find that in anyone else. So you accept this relationship that drains you because you honestly don't believe that you deserve better. And so you really just say to yourself, PMDD relationships are hard. Maybe this is just as good as it gets. So I'm really going to be working with you on this self-worth and the PMDD Power Couples membership, the group counseling community that I created this month. This is really huge for me. I'm going to be working on this and I'm going to break it down and I'm going to give you the tools one at a time because I know that there was so much that was packed in this episode. So if this is something that you know that you need help with, where you're saying, Dr. Rose, I don't want to lose my relationship. I know that my self-worth is going down and I'm feeling like I want to be valued in this relationship. I want my partners to be valued. I want us both to get better. I want us to stay together in a way that we both feel valued. If this is something that you know that you need to work on, then I'm going to put the link to the PMDD Power Couples in the show notes. I'm going to put it in the show notes. You can also DM me on Instagram, Dr. Rose _ in love with PMDD. You can always email me, Rose at in love with PMDD. If this is something that you know that you need help with, really take the time to listen to this. Share this with your partner, not as a way to blame them or shame them, but in a way of saying we need to do better together as a couple. That's what the PMDD Power Couples membership is all about. It's all about you all getting better together. You all getting to this point where you're addressing the things that are going on in your PMDD relationship in a way where you're saying, I don't like where things are. I know you don't like where things are. And we're actually going to do something about it. So until next time, we got this. I love you. I hope these tools help you and your PMDD partner. If you have not enrolled to get the course, My Partner Has PMDD, now what? Then you want to make sure that you are one of the first 12 individuals that gets the course for the month of December to get that complimentary private session with me. And then after that, it'll go back to regular price without the private sessions. But what this course is going to do for you is give your partner all of the tools that they need on how to be a supportive PMDD partner. What does that look like? I always say that your partner doesn't need more information. They need more implementation. They need more transformational tools. And this is the program for you. So I'm looking forward to you getting those tools in the program. And until next episode, we got this.